So welcome. This is the first of a series of lectures to discuss kind of the important things that you will need to know for careers. This lecture series will be resumes. So my name is Bob Bullard. I'm the Associate Director of the University Advising Services team here at Rowan University. And we're going to start with the most important piece of paper you will leave college with. So a lot of people say, I want that degree, that's the most important piece of paper. And really it's your resume, because your resume includes everything that you need to know, or an employer would need to know, about going forward to your career. So first things first, a lot of times like, hey, what do I put on a resume? I'm not sure. I've had a lot of jobs. I've had a lot of experience. I've done a lot of things. I really want to encapsulate those experiences for an employer. How do I do it? First things first, the most important part of a resume, your name. And a lot of people go, well, my name, but you want to make sure you hit them with a really good, clean start up top. So first thing is you're going to have all the information about you on the top of the page, whether it's centered or a line going across. First thing obviously would be your name. Second would be your address. A little bit peeve of mine is make sure you write out street, road, boulevard. If you abbreviate road, it is RD period. It is 3 characters. If you write out road, that's a whole 4 characters, 1 more letter. So make sure you write out that street address. So with numbers, street name, and then street right there. Next line down is going to be your city, comma, state, space, zip code. So it's city, comma, state, space, then zip code. Below that's going to be your cell phone number or a number you're going to be able to be reached at. You don't want to leave your home phone number if you're a student and you're not going to be home, because you never know if mom, dad, aunt, uncle, grandma, grandpa will get that message and get that back to you. So always make sure that you have a good phone, working phone that they can reach. And on top of that, you want to make sure your phone message is on point at this point. So you are going to be a professional very, very shortly, if not already. Calling your voicemail and saying, yo, hit me back is probably not appropriate this time. You want to make sure that your message is appropriate, whether it is the Verizon lady's voice going with just your number, or whether it's just you saying your name, you're not here right now, and leaving a message. Remember, resumes and a lot of things we'll talk about in careers is all about first impressions. That might be an employer's first impression of you. Last line on that is going to be your email address, whether that's a Hotmail, a Gmail, whatever mail you're using. Make sure it's appropriate. Usually your name and a number would be great, but make sure they're appropriate. Also, you can also use your Rowan email address right there. And that's going to be on the top of the page. So that's very, very important, because most employers, they have articles about this, that employers are looking at your resume for about 4 to 6 seconds. So they want to be able to scan things and make sure that you have all the requisite skills or the requisite setup to be a very sound candidate for their job. So after your information up top, a lot of places you can go in different ways. You can have an objective, you can have a summary of qualifications. Now objectives are becoming a little bit more passé, because now that we apply for almost every job on the internet, there's no doubt about what job you're applying to. You've taken the time to click on some links, look through a job description, and you know what job you're applying to. So take the time, do an objective. Do you really need it? No, because most times we were just saying, I want to be a candidate for your job. The fact that you've taken the time to email them, fill out a long application, and send it in is pretty much letting them know that you want to be a candidate. Plus, that's using valuable space on your resume. Again, if I'm just scanning your resume, I want to make sure that the most important information jumps out and close to the top. A flip side, something that you can do if you have a lot of skills that are requisite to the job, is including a summary of qualifications or a skills section right on the top of the page. What you can look for in something like that is if you have years of experience or something that you've done that would make you a top candidate for that job that you want to highlight right away. So if you worked in the industry for 5, 10 years, or you had an incredible series of internships that worked right for that job, that'd be great to highlight in a summary of qualifications. Other skills that would be great for a summary of qualifications include any language skills. So if you speak another language, regardless of what it is, you need to get that to the top of the page. If you have incredible computer skills or incredible skills that would be pertinent to that job. Things that you want to watch out for in that summary of qualifications are those quote-unquote soft skills that you cannot necessarily explain out. Those will come out during your resume, kind of in your work interest. So telling someone you're hardworking or you have good communication skills, that's very important, but that should be exuded throughout your resume. You saying it on a line in a summary of qualifications is not necessarily the best place to put that. Also, keep in mind, if you're thinking, wow, this is my first job, I really don't have that, it's okay to kind of skip the objective and summary qualifications and jump right into your education. So there are 2 types of resumes, one where you kind of start off with your education first, and the second one where it's more functional, you start off with jobs and then end with your education. But for most of us leaving Rowan University, we're going to look at the leading off with our education. So for everyone here at Rowan University, hopefully you're receiving a bachelor's degree. Even though we call it a bachelor's degree, the thing is, it is technically known or formally known as a Bachelor of Arts, Bachelor of Science, or a Bachelor of Fine Arts. So with that, make sure when you are showing that on your resume, you put Bachelor of Arts. And that should be your first line of your education. On the far right-hand side there, you want to include the date you're going to graduate. Even if it takes you 25 years to graduate from college, that's not of importance. The important thing is that you have your degree, or you will have your degree at a certain date. So if you have your degree, you include the date you graduate, just month and year. On resumes, we don't include days for month and year, it's just month, year. Or if you're anticipating you'll graduate in May of 2018, for say, you can include anticipated May 2018. Also, keep in mind your degree and the dates should be bold. On the next line down, you want to include your institution. So for us, that would be Rowan University, Glassboro, NJ. No zip code. The only time you'll put a zip code on your resume is on top of your information. The following line down is your GPA. So traditionally, we'll say that you should put your GPA if you have over a 3.0. Depending if you have a 2.998 or some fields that where a lower GPA may be acceptable, you want to put your GPA right underneath your location of your college and your college itself. Right next to that, if you've been on the dean's list or have any other academic awards there, it'd be a great place to put that because you want to highlight them closer to the top of the page. The next line down, if you have any certifications for education, it's a great place to put this. Also, if you're part of any academic honor society, so for example, if you're a history major and you're part of Phi Alpha Theta, this would be a great place to tell an employer that you are a member of Phi Alpha Theta. And that's a great way to kind of encapsulate your education close to the top of the page. A question we get a lot of the times is, what happens if I went to another institution but didn't receive a degree? For resume purposes, traditionally you do not put those other schools on your resume. The only time I would suggest putting a school like that on your resume is if you had a study abroad experience, letting them know where you studied abroad and possibly other courses that you've listed. Following that, if you do have an associate's degree and your resume does have space for your associate's degree, I would definitely put your associate's degree down. You've taken the time to earn a degree there, so you want to take the time to make sure you put it on your resume. For associate's degree, traditionally it is an associate in arts, an associate in science. So it's Bachelor of Arts, it's Bachelor of Science. For your associate's degree, it'll be associate in arts, associate in science, and it'll be the same setup as you'll see above for your bachelor's degree. And that should pretty much end your education section there. Next section for you that you might want to include is a relevant coursework section. And a relevant coursework section is great to show an employer, hey, I haven't had an opportunity to have an internship or I haven't had a job in the field yet, but I've taken all these great courses that will make me a top candidate when I do get to your company for an internship or a job. Make sure you're including only relevant courses to that career field or that major. So for example, you don't have to include every single course you've taken in college, but if you are a law and justice major and you have taken criminal justice courses like Survey of Criminal Justice or Law and Human Rights, those would be great classes to include. And that's going to encapsulate what you're doing here at Rowan. And that's what's going to encapsulate kind of your education experience right on the top there. The next line, it's going to be kind of depending on what skills you have to offer or what jobs you had to offer. But for many people, it's going to be their work experience or relevant work experience. And this is where resumes are great because you can tailor them to best suit your skills and the needs of an employer. So if you've had relevant work towards your field, whether it's an internship, whether it's student teaching, whether it's anything, you want to highlight that closer to the top of the page. How you do that, so you're going to start a new heading with relevant work experience or work experience. The first thing there should be the job title that you had. If you weren't sure of your job title, you want to make sure you ask your employer what your official job title was. Much like your degree, that will be bold. On the far right-hand side, you should include the dates that you were there. Again, we do not include days on our resume, so it should just be month, year to month, year. Also, if you were a student and this was an internship opportunity or you did it over the summer, you could put summer 2014, fall 2014. Using semester terms is appropriate on your resume, especially when you're still an undergraduate student. On the next line down, you're going to put the company's name, followed by where it is, so comma, city, comma, state. So for example, if you work at Rowan University, it'll be Rowan University, comma, Glassboro, comma, New Jersey. The next line down, you want to include bulleted statements about what you're doing. Now, before you include your bulleted statements, you want to ask yourself, what did you do? as a part of that job. So as a part of that job, what did you do? So these bulleted statements should all start with a verb, so an action word or a verb, and they should kind of encapsulate what you've done part of that job. So for example, if you were a babysitter, don't just tell the employer what a babysitter does. Tell them what you did as a babysitter. So, and also this is a great time to look up verbs that encapsulate what a babysitter does. Do you care? Do you provide childcare? Do you foster? Yeah, you could do a lot of those things. Don't be afraid to switch up your verb usage there. So bullet statements usually fit the entire line, but explain what you're doing. And you'll do that for every job experience. Now, if it's more pertinent to the field you want to get into, you definitely want to make sure you include more bullets. If it's something that you showed that you've worked and you want to show some interchangeable skills, one bullet would be sufficient. Following work experience, if you have space on your resume, you can always include skills or hobbies, or if you were if you were part of a Greek life in college or you're an athlete, any of those things right there. Last thing you also want to include is anytime that you've done anything volunteering in the community. So anytime you were part of the community, whether it was Rowan Clean and Green, whether it was something like you provided help to tutoring, it doesn't make a difference. You want to make sure you put that there. And the last kind of part of your resume will be a reference statement. So a lot of times people will put references upon request. You should be sending your references almost every single time you apply to a job. So this time we want you to put references are enclosed. It shows an employer, one, that you have enclosed your references, but two, you have also ended your resume with a nice bold line there. And those are the key points of a resume. So the resume, what you should look for, key points. One is your name. Two is a summary of qualifications if needed. Three is your education and relevant courses. Four is your work experience. Five, skills that you may have. And six, hobbies, things that you were involved in with school, and then ending with that reference statement. Things about resume you want to keep in mind. One, resumes are traditionally an 11 size font. So try to keep them in 11 size font. You can go to 12, you can go to 10, but 11 size font is a good size font for resumes. Make sure that your headings are all uniformed. So whatever heading, if you capitalize, if you bold, make sure that every heading is bold and capitalized. And that goes for your name as well. Other things you want to keep in mind, the standard for resumes are 1-inch margins, but if you do extend the margins on either side or on top to bottom, make sure you do it in a uniform fashion. So one side just can't have 0.5 margins and the other side have 1.5 margins. They need to be equal. Also keep in mind for printing purposes, so if an employer was going to print out your resume, you should go no less than 0.5 margins on either side. Microsoft Word will keep it in 1 for you right away, no more than 0.5. Other things to keep in mind, watch out for colors. So if you put colors on your resume, if someone prints it out, they may print it out in black and white. You want to watch out for that. Make sure, and this is incredibly important, you want to proofread your resume. You want to make sure someone looks at your resume. We have tremendous resources on our campus in the Office of Career Advancement, but all of your professors, your advisors, they're looking for a job. Ask them, hey, can you look at my resume and make sure there's no mistakes? So really hitting your name, hitting your education, your work experience, making sure that everything is uniform, making sure that you use bold appropriately, also avoid italics unless it is something that you are an author of a piece of work, but really making sure that there's a nice uniform resume for an employer. Again, 4 to 6 seconds, an employer will know right away that yes, this is a good resume, or no, this is not a good resume. For more tips on resume writing, you can always go to our Office of Career Advancement. You can always ask your advisors or your professors in your college, or you can go and check out more information on the internet and find out more information about resumes. My name is Bob Bullard. I want to thank you for watching our video about resumes, and if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask.